Hey guys, it's Krystal Lucier here, also known as your Home Sweet Home 519 Realtor, Krystal Lee Moore. And this is Realtor Life, a fun and entertaining look at life in the trenches as a real estate professional in Ontario. I'm so happy you're here. Let's get started. Today we're going to talk about learning from our mistakes, finding your circle, and the joy of systems and how they can give you back some balance and help you with time management. So the first thing when we talk about learning from our mistakes, and we can also another way to put that is to let setbacks be our teachers. There's never going to be a career path or a trajectory to success that is a straight down to up without obstacles. It's part of our growth, it's part of our journey, and we all go through it. What separates the really successful people from those who maybe are less successful is what happens when you make that mistake. Are you going to learn from it? Are you going to grow? Are you going to make sure that you don't make that mistake again? Or are you going to be sad about it or maybe play the blame game? It's all their fault. Now, there are many situations where both people contribute to an issue, but as a professional, the buck stops with us, right? So if there's an issue, it really comes down to us. And sometimes that is it sucks, but it is still true. And one of the things you can do is just sit down and go through a situation that didn't go your way and figure out why. Maybe it could have been a communication breakdown. It could have been an expectation misalignment. It could have been a number of things. But as a professional, as much as it's easier to say, oh, well, it's their fault. Do you want it to happen again? Probably not. So let's learn from it. And you can actually really benefit from learning what not to do. And so sometimes what we do is we can model other people, and yes, learning what not to do from your own mistakes is important and it's going to happen. You can also learn from other people's mistakes. And I find that that's a really great thing with all of the books and all of the keynotes and the podcasts. We can hear stories just like the way I'm talking about a career in real estate. We can listen to other people and kind of talk about what did they do, what didn't work, and what might work next time. And it will save you a lot of time and heartache. Unfortunately, there are some lessons we have to learn ourselves, but the beauty of the age we're living in is that you can learn from other people and you can just zip through these lessons. You do have to learn them though. So just really letting setback be our teacher and knowing that you're not alone. So I run a Buffini group, and Buffini and Company is a coaching company. I've talked about it a lot. I'm a big fan, and they are based in Carlsbad, California. But one of the best parts of this company, in addition to the wonderful training and the events and how much they care and the coaching, all of it, it's perfect. But what makes it perfect is the community. So you have the community that actually works there, but then all of us. So we have these small groups, and once a month we get together and we're able to go through these really great curated discussion questions. And this month we talked about what is a setback that we've had and how are we going to adjust our path moving forward in light of this setback. So how are we going to basically adjust the gears so that we don't have this happen again? And one of the most important things to do when you have a setback is to give yourself a moment to be sad about it. I don't know how many Ted Lasso fans we have, but be like a goldfish. Give yourself a second to be sad and then reset like it didn't happen. And you do want to learn from it, but don't let it drag you down. So if you lose a client, if you lose a listing, if you have an unfortunate interaction with an agent, or if you just have a bad day, a deal doesn't come together. These things happen to everyone. And John Acuff, who I was very, very lucky to just hear from, he has a great podcast as well called All It Takes Is a Goal. John Acuff says, we are the CEOs of our actions, not of our results. So at the end of the day, you can do everything kind of the way you know how to do it. And if it really comes down to it, it could be a situation where you do everything that you think you're supposed to do and it still doesn't work. And if you've done everything you think you're supposed to do, does that mean there's no more learning? That was rhetorical. Yes, of course there's more learning because you did it to the best of your ability, but you could have done it better. And why don't we learn what that means and what that looks like? So if it turns out that, I'll give you an example from my experience. So a lot of the times we'll have clients and we go through our buyer presentation with them and we explain everything. We explain the searches, we explain the process, we explain the offers and how all of this works. But what happens sometimes is that this may be, let's say you've done this presentation 100 times, 200 times. And what happened to me was in all the times I've ever done this presentation, I've never asked what frequency people would like to receive home updates. I assumed, because most people have always said they want to get it right away, that everyone wants to get it right away. And so I would always just ignore the fact, and for anyone that's not using Matrix, if you have your own search portal, you can choose whether someone gets listings once or twice a day, or if they get them immediately as soon as they're listed. And one of the best features of these searches is that you can get it right away. And so I've been doing this for almost 14 years. It didn't occur to me that anyone would ever want that different because of all of the other people I had met with. Everyone wanted them right away. So I had a situation where my clients were actually very frustrated with the amount and timing of the notifications and emails about properties. And what's interesting is that obviously obviously to us, but I have no control over when an agent is going to activate a listing. So if it's a Friday night at 11:45 or a Monday at 3 a.m., these emails are going to them. And that was very frustrating. So I can either say, well, this is how I've always done it, or I can learn from it. And so because of that, we've added in a process in our buyer presentation to say, when would you like to get these emails? Would you like to get them twice a day, once a day, or would you like to get them as they're listed? And word of caution, there may be a lot and they might come at strange times. And so that's how we can take a step back and learn from it. The other option though would be to say, well, this is how we've done it, too bad. And that's not the right option, spoiler alert. Because that's just, if you're not learning and growing, then you're dying. And that's from Tony Robbins. We're either growing or dying. There's really no static space for us. And it's important to know exactly what your goal is. And the goal is to learn and to grow and to continue to get better and continue to serve people. And so I would challenge you to think of a situation that has frustrated you. Pro tip, if it really, really frustrated you, it might be even more important. But how can you make sure that doesn't happen again? Even if it seemed like it was their fault, even if it was frustrating, even if you did everything possible, was there something else that you could have done? Maybe another way you could have explained something or handled something. There's always something, always. And so dig deep, and this can be an education. And then you haven't wasted your time on a bad situation. You've actually learned. So that's the advice that I was given, and I absolutely love it. So the next thing is finding your circle. So I mentioned the Buffini group that I lead. I also, I'm in some groups and I lead a couple of other groups. So I lead an awesome mastermind in my office of agents, and we get together once a week. We just started reading a book together. So pro tip, if you need a book suggestion, The Full Fee Agent by Chris Voss is so good. Chris Voss and Steve Schul, sorry, Steve, but really, really good book. And Chris Voss wrote Never Split the Difference, and he's a former FBI negotiator. It's very interesting the way he talks about tone and body language and mirroring and labeling, but also how he talks about the words we use and why it's important that we use them. And I'll give you an example really quick from my circle, my mastermind group. We were talking about language and why it's important. And so when we talked about labeling, so labeling, just for anyone that doesn't know, basically it's like you're paraphrasing but with a question. So someone might say, it's really cold in here. And you might say to them, it sounds like you're pretty cold. And if you're not used to it, my first reaction is it sounds like I'm patronizing them, but it's not. It really does flow, and especially if you're being authentic about it. But I found out that if someone says, it's really cold in here, and I say, are you trying to say you're cold? That sentence, are you trying to say, is very different than it sounds like, or what I'm hearing, or is what I'm hearing correct, that you're really cold. Those are all okay. But if you use the word, are you trying, you're almost offending them. You're insulting their intelligence. I did not see that one. And so this is where it's nice to sit with a circle of like-minded individuals, but different people. And 3 of our 8 people felt that was an offensive sentence. And even if we don't understand it, how great is it that I learned about this surprising turn of events at a safe place, at a table full of my peers, and not by accidentally offending a client. So that was a really interesting one. But I definitely recommend The Full Fee Agent. Chapter 2 is fantastic. It has some really great questions that you can ask yourself and ask potential sellers. So when we're talking about this mastermind, we created it because we all got together. We took a whole day in December and we ended up watching the Brian Buffini master class. So again, I'm going to talk about Buffini a lot in this episode, but Buffini and company usually has these masterclass events, and every year they come to Toronto in kind of end of November, beginning of December, and that's kind of the last one. It's the Canadian leg of the tour, and we love it. We absolutely love it. We go down, we make a whole thing. Well, last year they didn't do it, but because they love us Canadians, Buffini offered for a small fee that we could stream it. So we decided to get together as a group and we streamed it. This group loved getting together so much that we decided to continue and flip the group into a mastermind. And so we get together once a week. Currently, we're reading this Chris Voss book, but we also talk about our productivity, struggles that we're having. We talk about goals and accountability, but it really is an amazing situation where we have people, and we're all busy. I get it. We are all busy. But this actually helps us be better agents, better people. Our stress is down. We feel more supported, and more of us are getting involved in the Buffini system. But it really is just nice to know that you have these colleagues that not only work with you, but they care. They care if you are having a good day or a bad day. They care if you show up. And it is such an honor to lead this group because they're just fantastic. And I get just as much out of it as they do, and it's wonderful. The other group I lead is, and you'll, depending on where you are in your real estate career, you may have noticed that it is very hard to join networking groups as a realtor because the 2 kind of core people that are usually already in the group are a realtor and a mortgage person. So if you cannot find one, as I could not when I first started my groups, just make one. If you can't find it, make your own. And so that's what I've done. And I started an all-female group last year, and it's called Rise. And it is absolutely wonderful. It's all business owners, all like-minded. And it really is a great place to build relationships and build connections. And the reason for that one was I really wanted to get to know more women in my city, but also I felt that as a realtor, sometimes personal friendships, like new friendships, can be really hard to grow and foster because our schedules are crazy. When most people are off on the weekends and the evenings, when you might be socializing, we're kind of running off to meet with clients. And it can be really tough if you have a quote unquote realtor emergency and you have to step out. And then we also have our families and other obligations. So I wanted to find a way, could I marry my love for being an entrepreneur, my love for leadership, and my love for connecting? And this is fantastic. So we're just about to start our second year, and I'm very grateful for these ladies. But that's the thing, like having the circle of people who they know you, they like you, they respect you, there's mutual trust, and it really just is about elevating each other. And that's the thing, right? Life is short. We only have so long, and what kind of an impact can we make on each other? And then the very last thing, so systems and getting your time back. So one of the things I did I've had a few situations in the last few years where I felt I wanted to be more organized. And when I went searching, because when I had my situation where I hadn't explained something to a client, I wanted to go back to my checklist and my whole process. And it turned out I had started these checklists several times in the last 6, 7, 8, 9 years. And so I really took some time and I reframed everything. And I said, like, this is one standard procedure for buyers, one standard procedure for sellers. It's customizable. We can print it out, go through everything. And now I don't have to worry that I'm missing something. We have some nice printouts and handouts we created for the client. And it feels so much better. So putting in a little bit of time at the front end actually gives you more time and less stress, because you never want that to happen where a client feels like you haven't explained something or they're getting frustrated with you, which is such a tough emotion to deal with, especially when we're in the service industry. But the systems are really important, and balancing your calendar. So having a system like that, you can have a system like that for your calendar, for your day. One of the things we talked about in my Buffini group when we were talking about like things that people would like to get better at, morning routine was a big one. So getting that morning routine and really blocking out the day so that the day isn't blocking you out, basically, and making sure that you have the time that you need for your clients and for appointments and calls, but you're also taking the time you need for you, for fitness and family time and spiritual time and everything that you need. And getting a hold of that calendar at the beginning, again, like front loading that work so it all flows better, and you'll actually find that you'll end up with some extra time. And the last thing I will say is, and this is less real estate related, but I feel like it might be just what you need to hear. I'm currently doing a declutter challenge. And so my recommendation, especially after the spring, is do your own declutter challenge. If your home is fine, great. If it's not, do it at home too. But a declutter challenge for the office, we keep so much stuff. We get free things at trade shows and people send us things, and we get this with a brand and a logo, and it is overwhelming. And much to my dismay, I have quite a few old Buffini cards and handouts that need to be thrown out. I tend to keep them because I think maybe I'll send them, but we get new ones every single month, so I probably won't. The real key is just to deal with the pain of getting rid of stuff and then just get onto track so that you can easily get rid of your notes by sending them to colleagues and friends and clients. But the declutter challenge is really great because clutter adds stress and anxiety. So if you can take that out, imagine all the wonderful memories and happy times you can have, because you won't be stressed out thinking of all the stuff you need to do on a daily basis. So just to sum up, we have Number 1 was let setbacks be our teachers, learn from our mistakes. Number 2, find your circle, find your mastermind. And number 3, systems, balance, and time management. Remember, how you do anything is how you do everything. I'm Krystal Lee Moore Lucier, also known as your Home Sweet Home 519 Realtor, Krystal Lee Moore. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you soon.